Hello, my friends. My name is Anton Koniluk, and today we are continuing this series of video blogs. Today I have a very interesting guest for you. It is an Ahmed. Hello, Ahmed.
Hey, Anton. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming. Today we'll start speaking about, I think, very interesting topic. It's a bit outstanding of the technologies. It is more about what is happening in the industry because in the industry, meaning from the naming roles, whatever you go to the different conference, you could see some names and what all these roles means, what these people are doing. It's basically, at least, is a question that I have myself always when I see some visit cards, and that's exactly the reason why I have invited Ahmed to talk about this topic, because Ahmed has very long experience in working in this industry. And as of today, he is working in the Juniper. And before working to the Juniper, he also has an opportunity to work in the small technology companies and the big technologies company. In the companies that was acquired, the small companies was acquired by the big company. So he knows all this kitchen from inside down. So that's why I think he would be a perfect guest for you. So besides working for the big telecommunication companies or vendors, he also speaking on the different events in the West Hemisphere. So you can find him the different US events speaking. And additionally, we are working with him together and some other guys on the network programmability and automation book about actual network programmability and automation that will be released by Cisco Press this year. You could follow him on the LinkedIn, on the Twitter, whatever you prefer more. So, having this brief introduction, let's start our discussion.
Thank you, Anton, for the introduction. And let me start by saying that the most important piece of information on this slide is that I've been in this industry since 2003. And that means I've been doing this for a long time. And that means I got a chance to do different roles and in different companies. And I think that probably helped me, have the right information for this presentation.
Yeah, thank you. I think that would be really interesting because, as I said, when I come to the various events on the meetings, people give, yeah, that is my visit card. Okay, it's pre-sales, it is advanced. What does it mean? I mean, so many different marketing terms. So guide us through them, please.
So, as you know, these terms could mean the same thing with different titles, and they can mean different things depending on the company or the industry. So there is a lot of room for definitions, but we're gonna try to keep it, at a not high enough or not low enough, just to keep it in the middle, so that we would get an idea on the whole thing. And I think the best way to actually explain this is to describe it as a story and go from who do we need when we start a small software company, and as we grow to bigger companies with the big scale, what kind of roles keep getting added.
Okay, sounds interesting. So where do our story starts?
So we start with startups, right? Someone wants to write some software and offer it as a product. Now there are different kinds of software, different kinds of technology, to be honest, more than just software, hardware, software, whatever it is. And all you need is just one person, right? Two hands to write the software. But then that person is doing the whole thing, is doing everything. They write the code, they develop the ideas, they present it, they sell it, they support it, they do everything. So as you can see, right, small companies don't need everyone, but as they grow, they keep adding more roles. And we can make this even a little bit more interesting to maybe walk that path from small company to big company.
So what you say, for the small company, that probably a lot of this various role would be just composed in a single person or just a single role.
Yeah, most of the time there is a founder. The founder could be a technical person, could be a software developer or an engineer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're not, but there is usually a technical co-founder, right? They call them CTO, you can call them whatever. So that person probably overlooks a big part of all the roles that we do in these big companies. So for example, like I said, they would be doing the marketing, the product management, a little bit of the even business development, maybe sales. So let's just maybe take it slow, right? So like I said, startups, co-founders, and then they hire more engineers, right? That's what usually you start with. And let's just use the acronyms and terms that we use in those big companies. So you mentioned here R&D engineer. Some companies, they call them software engineer, right? As basic as that. Some companies will actually call them um, development engineer, or maybe different types, but this is good enough. And then, like I said, the team will grow a little bit, and there will definitely be some engineering manager, and there will probably be some hierarchy in that software engineering group. So you will probably see principal engineer or distinguished engineer. So all of these are different titles to technical people, basically people that belong to the engineering and software development organization. And then because these, let's say that this company grew a little bit, and now they want to scale, they want to grow. So what would be the first person they want to hire?
Okay.
Right?
Who is it?
So exactly. So think about it. So it's still a small company. So the software engineers are probably doing their own technical marketing, their own product management, their own support, their own pre-sales, or yeah.
Okay.
And then so probably the first person that these guys will probably hire would be a salesperson, right? Because sales is kind of a different skill set, right? Like it's a little bit far from what software engineers would do. So you can see sales people coming in, and when we talk about sales, right? So there are usually two types of salespeople in those big companies. When it's a smaller company, maybe it's just one. So usually there is this account manager, right? And you pointed here in the slide, you have that. Let's see this account manager right here, and then there's the system engineer. So we can always look at these twins going together into each account. One of them knows the sales cycle, that he knows the whole process. They talk discounts, they talk delivery of hardware. They mainly they build the relationship with the customer. They make sure they listen to their demands, right? And the system engineer is the sales engineer, right? Sometimes, like I said here, pre-sales engineer. So that's the guy that knows the product technically. They can present it well. Sometimes the system engineers will be the system engineer will be the person doing the proof of concept lab. If they want to demonstrate the product to the customer. So you can see POC engineer sometimes. So all different names for similar stuff. But then the system engineer in a bigger company is also focused on, sometimes there is a account system engineer, and they focus only with certain account, and they cover all technologies. So they would be presenting security, routing, switching, whatever.
So
and when it's a big
certain customer, right?
Yes. And sometimes when there is a bigger customer, there will be different system engineers, right? So there'll be maybe one for the routing products, another one for the security, one for the data center.
Okay.
So yeah, let's go back to the startup. The startup grew a little bit. They hired the salespeople, and then so the software engineers, they started getting customers. Now they sold their product. They started getting some feature requests from customers, and then you can you have different customers, different requests. Which one do we do first? Like, that's always the question. Like, is it better to do this feature first or the other one? Is it better to improve the code, maybe efficiency, speed, or to actually add features? So someone needs to do this homework. Someone needs to take this exercise and come up to the best decision, and that is usually the product manager, right? So that you can see, after sales are hired, product management are hired as well. And you can see that the product manager, most of the time, they come from a technical background. Sometimes they don't, depending on the industry, depending on a lot of stuff. And they have similar skill set as a project manager in terms of being organized, being able to communicate effectively, being able to set deadlines and milestones, and basically be able to oversee a project from start to end, right?
Okay.
And then the product manager role can actually grow also in responsibility. And then you can see that product manager can do the inbound, they call them inbound, and there's the outbound. So inbound is the internal work, like they work directly with the software engineers every single day. They talk about progress, what is needed to build this feature, when can we finish it, all of that.
Okay.
And then the outbound product manager would be the person, out there in conferences, presenting the product, talking to customers, meeting them, listening to what they need, even maybe understanding exactly what's going on in the industry by being, reading news, being very active in the industry externally, basically to find out what is happening and what should we improve in the product.
Okay.
So you can see that it's a lot to do, and then you probably will understand that the product manager might want to also divide their work, right? So so the presenting the product part can be a responsibility on its own, and that can be passed down to technical marketing engineers. So you can see those people being extremely skilled at presenting demos, building POCs, making sure the customer sees the basically all the good things about the product, right? So that sometimes they call them customer success, and so now you see all sorts of titles, but the kind of the common term is technical marketing engineer, right? And you
Okay.
can see from the term that they're marketing people, but they are also technical. So they definitely understand the features really well, the architecture of the software, and the marketing effort is, like we said, presenting the product and demonstrating the product capabilities.
Okay.
So now you can see the company has people selling it, people thinking about what we should be building next, and then we have the marketing people presenting it, and then you can see that if you think about it right now to this point, who's supporting the product, right? It's still the software engineers, and maybe they need to focus on all the customer requests coming in to improve the product, so they don't have time to do the support, so they want someone else to do it. And then you can see the support engineers, and maybe with all these big companies, tech companies, technical assistant engineer, customer support engineer, or different terms for the same thing. So the support engineer is definitely the person that will receive the customer request for troubleshooting or looking into a problem basically with the product, right? So you want to call it support, right? So in a classic networking companies, how it goes. You file the request, and then they respond to you. You send them information, they look into it. Simple problems usually are resolved with maybe clearly explaining the product, how it works. Most of the time it's not that. Most of the time it's software bug, or maybe something with the software, right? So that's why the support engineer are technical people, very technical. They even go beyond the other parts of the organization, that they are kind of the best user of the product, but they also know the architecture really well, and they probably know which problem was fixed in which release. So they would be able to give you quick advice and referrals on which software to run and all that. And then you can probably guess that, well, the company grew a little bit, and now the support engineer was probably able to answer some questions earlier, like how do we what is the best way to build set up the product, or install it, or scale it. And then you can see that maybe those people don't have enough time to do all of that. Like they just want to focus on the support, on the problem service tickets, these kind of things. So now you start seeing those service engineers, right? So you wrote advanced service engineers.
Okay.
Another name for it could be professional services engineers. Consulting engineer is kind of the senior role, and of course post-sales engineer. So those are the people that are going to go and basically install the product for the customer. They were going to give some advice on the best way to bring the product into life, and then maybe how to use it. So that can include design documents, that can include a lot of discussion around goals and all that. Solution architect is probably when the product is more than just a small product or a one dimension product, when it's really like a network where you have all sorts of pieces talking together. You have storage, you have data center switches, you have servers, you have logging. So you probably need someone that has seen all of it. They're not just focused on one technology, and that's probably what a consulting engineer or a solution architect is, because those people are basically going out there making sure that the customer uses the product successfully.
Okay. So it looks like, yeah, we have the whole bunch of the roles who is depending from each other with the company grows, right?
Yeah. And then of course there are all sorts of different roles, related to procurement, finance, purchasing, and all that. Like you mentioned fulfillment engineer, and again, one more role that probably makes sure that inventory is taken care of in one way. Um, Sometimes the readiness of the product in terms of power and electricity and environmental, so stuff like that. But we mainly covered all the common roles, and I think we can probably talk a lot about details, Anton.
Correct. So that's, I think, idea, because you will actually always already has gone through the role. But if we start thinking, start kind of grouping all these things together, all these roles, I think we could, if we speak about technical roles, obviously, as you said, so admin, financial roles, so business development, we put for a moment aside. But if you take a look from purely technical roles that exist in the vendor, so what I think, are they fitting into these buckets? Should we add something else? Should we remove something?
No, I think if your audience and you are interested in going into details of each role, especially the ones that are more on the engineering side, and maybe for the people in the field, people operating the networks themselves, maybe they're not exposed that much to these roles. We can probably talk about details of that, like product management, product line management, product marketing, technical marketing, and all of that.
Okay, and that is definitely what we would take a look, and what we should, and I hope we will do in the next couple of sessions. So guys, we will together with Ahmed go through, let's say, these building blocks. So who creates the products, who decides to create the product, who creates all the documentation. So we'll try to group for you these different roles, and not only to sum up these roles, but also to provide you some hints. So if you're interested in this particular role, where you should be strong, like should you go for a technical deep dive? Should you go to the presentation? Should you go for some analytical thinking? Should you go for some even speaking training, probably public speaking, to be successful?
Right. I actually, since we will continue doing this, let me put a small interesting question to out there, and we will answer it probably on the next episode. So how does product manager decide what's the right thing to build, right? The obvious answer is the customer will tell them that, but I think there are a lot of other inputs and variables into this equation. So I'm going to leave that out there, and we're going to talk about it next time.
Okay, thanks. So guys, feel free to put your comments or your ideas about this question. So will be interesting to hear your thoughts and to have a kind of more let's say, open or more live discussion on this topic. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you a lot, Ahmed, for your time. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.
Thank you, Anton, for doing this, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you. Take care. See you next time.
See you.